Well, the Gauteng Premier is rather busy today. He's now briefing the media on developments regarding e-tolls. Let's take you live to that.
The second task team was how do we repurpose the countries and the entire infrastructure and either utilize it to assist us to deal with the challenges of crime and many other related matters. So we requested MEC for Community Safety, Faith Mazibu, to lead us in that front and also come out with mechanism that will deal it. And then we put a technical team led by our DG, Mdu, Mbara, so that we can then start to provide both the technical expertise to the process and the technical support to matters. So where we stand, our argument remains, as Gauteng, we really believe that we have to deal with matters that will ensure there is certainty in everything that we do. And the issue of e-toll created a lot of uncertainty in our citizens. And we are of the view, and we'll see when we meet with you in the next few weeks, there are lots of uncertain projects in Gauteng that we need to conclude. Those that were viewing a television show, there is a hospital in Kempton Park, there's another hospital in West Rand called Gold Ashanti. There is a school in Tembisa that was built inside wetland. So we'll make an announcement on how we eliminate uncertainty and have finality on this matter. But one aspect that is the highest level of uncertainty was e-tolls. And I want to state here, we don't want to claim as this cabinet that we're the only one or started this thing. This thing started long ago. We just came at the tail end where we felt we need to negotiate and negotiate harshly. The negotiations were not easy. They were tough, difficult. At some stage we felt like we can just walk out. But because we represent the interest of our communities, we stuck to the negotiations. And we want to thank the National Minister of Treasury and the National Minister of Transport for the manner in which they conducted these negotiations and these discussions. We also want to thank our President for honestly ensuring that we conclude these negotiations within the allocated timelines. We want to reopen sections of these negotiations on all the above matters that we've raised, because people of Gauteng want to know how we will settle this 30%. What we know is that whatever model that we will introduce and negotiate and consult with the people of Gauteng, tolling is not one of them. The financial revenue model that we want to introduce will not include tolling. But because this was gazetted to, if I have to use that English, to ungazette, there is a process that needs to be followed by national government. So hence the technical team led by our DG will assist us. In a statement that was released by National Treasury yesterday, they indicated that we have until the 31st of December to conclude that task, which simply means between now and the 31st of December, Central and its institutions will continue to deal with matters that are related to e-tolling. What is the revenue model that we want to utilize? That we are going to consult people of Gauteng. We want to reject a notion that has been flying all over, that the commitment we've made to pay this 30% means health and education will suffer. We want to reject that notion. They will not suffer. Actually, they will get more money from our budget. We'll see when we announce our budget, mini budget, on the 24th of November. So any person that says we have taken a reckless decision that will affect health and education and other services, without going through our books, and we'll share with you the draft or preliminary areas where we feel that we will be in a position to raise funds those individuals, they don't understand how the finances of government work. So we want to assure our citizens that either the budget to fight crime or the budget to fight or to have quality education and health will not be compromised by this decision. We will table, and that's what we want to do, until we know the figures. We want to stagger the repayment period, if it is allowed, hence the technical team. We want to stagger the payment periods for a period of 20 years or more. And if we do so, we'll be in a position to shield our fiscus as a province. And we've already started to put 1 billion as an amount that we are prepared to pay per annum. But because we don't know the exact figures, we don't know that whether it includes interest or not. But this is what we are going to share with our colleagues in National. Secondly, we normally get 800 million grant for maintenance as a province from National. We want to call for an increase in this particular grant. We believe that it will assist us to also stagger the payments that we need to pass. So this is the amount that we normally get. We've got prime land parcels. Those are land parcels that are owned by the state, by provincial government. These land parcels are in Sentin, they are in the Val, Ekurhuleni, West Rand, and major strategic urban areas. So we've got properties like houses, we've got land. So we're bringing them to say we'll put them in the market. Whatever that will raise out of that will also contribute to this. We've also put up a debate that the motor licensing, liquor licensing, and what is commonly known as sin taxes are areas where we have a provincial mandate to do. We will tap into those resources to assist us to really deal with this challenge. We're of the view that there are other 20 national toll gates when we enter 22 national toll gates when we enter Gauteng. We want to engage with those institutions if the infrastructure of e-toll is transferred to us, because that's what we want to argue, that the infrastructure is transferred to us, and maybe we can provide and render service to these 22 toll gates that are around Gauteng. We are also looking at, which to us is very, very important, within our own fiscus areas that can raise revenue. There are areas like gambling that raise revenue. There are areas like billboards, advertisement that also raise revenue. So we will put that. So the team is going out to pick up on all those areas. But we have taken a decision to protect services to the poor, and we've also taken a decision that this particular arrangement must not affect the effectiveness of running government, which simply means we must not have a staff reduction because we are paying this debt, and we must not have a drop in service delivery because we are paying this particular debt. With all these arrangements, we will consult people of Gauteng, because the reason we are in this situation is that when the e-tolls were introduced, people of Gauteng felt that we were not consulted. We don't want to commit the same mistake. So the team that is working on the revenue enhancement model is working extremely hard to ensure that they put a proposal that can be accepted by National Treasury and the Department of Transport, and on the basis of that, a firm date can be formulated to say the e-toll will end on this day, so that people must not continue to have receipts and all other things. But we want to emphasize our model does not include any form of tolling on this matter, which simply means that we will not have this crisis again. Being guided by Gauteng citizens, we really believe we'll reach a situation where will be guided by the principle of fair and just, equitable, affordable, and sustainable way of dealing with this matter. But we all know people of Gauteng, in their overwhelming numbers, have resisted e-tolls. It would be reckless to continue to force e-tolls on them. We are of the view that this is a win-win situation. It's not perfect, it's not ideal, it has its own limitations, but we can't have this hanging on top of our head forever. We needed to cut the umbilical cord, and we believe we have done so. In doing so, we have never, as the Gauteng provincial government, want to encourage all people to have this idea that we are opposing to the user pay principle. We will protect the user pay principle, and we really believe that user pay principle should be protected. We are just committing ourselves to a part of paying 30% and conclude this uncertainty forever, so that the people of Gauteng can continue with their life. I think we will be naive not to thank all the organizations that opposed the e-tolls, from NGOs like OUTA, labor movements like COSATU, political parties like the ANC and the SACP, and ordinary citizens that have registered their displeasure on this matter. We have heard your voice. We respect the courage. We respect the fight that we've waged. We want you now to join us in establishing a consultative process that will ensure that we deal with this matter once and for all. We remain committed and considerate to those that are poor and those that are using our road infrastructure, so that we don't overburden them and have these roads neglected or underutilized. As soon as we conclude our meeting with the National Minister of Finance and the National Minister of Transport, we will give certainty on dates, outstanding matters, so that collectively with national government we can develop a roadmap that will finally end this undesirable program of e-tolls in Gauteng. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Premier, colleagues. There we are. Can I then make some or pick up some questions? Just say who you are and which media house you represent. And let me start from the my right. It's yourself, number one, channel number 2, number 3, then you'll be number 4. Okay.
Is it more?
No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Repurposing from SABC News. One would have expected that the so-called outstanding issues would have been ironed out, when you had the discussions initially or before the budget that was tabled some few weeks ago. Why were these outstanding issues not dealt with earlier, before, at least before budget? And then the other question is, what is going to be the impact of this debt on Gauteng's debt as a percentage of the provincial GDP?
Okay, thank you very much, Sako.
Sure.
I think the last question covers my question, my internet question.
Okay, great stuff. Yes, please come.
Hi, Adressa from Netwerk Feeling. I just wanted to know, Premier, who will take ownership of the road? We understand that it is a national road. And if you are unclear on this, will you be asking to get the road back on your books? And then, so a lot of people have not paid their e-toll accounts. Will they have to pay the money now? And any idea of how much roughly is owed by people who have not paid? Is it like $1 billion, or will it be enough to cover the 30% at least that Gauteng now has to pay? And is there plans for any other tolls in the future, not necessarily e-tolls, but implementing normal tolls like we know them on the roads?
Thank you very much, Lisa. Do you want to come?
Yes.
Okay, come in and then you're going to.
Madam Mushawi from Newsroom Africa. Premier, what happens then to the employees of the e-toll gantries. We're facing a difficult situation where unemployment is very high post COVID-19 and just generally because of the economy. What is the plan there? What will happen to them?
Okay, thanks. Tumza?
Narrating Noble, SABC Radio News. Okay, my question also similar to my colleagues here. The Democratized Transport, Logistics and Allied Workers Union seems to be under the impression that their members will not be affected, and they are hoping that government will make interventions to make sure that there's no implications for jobs. Can you give certainty at this point that there won't be an impact? And also, can we get an understanding of the composition of the technical task team that you said is going to be under the DG in terms of the kind of professionals that are going to be, dealing with this issue? And also another question that might have been touched on, why was there no conversation, or maybe rather let me say, what was the nature of the conversation between national government and provincial government prior to the announcement by the Finance Minister? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. Premier, you call those?
Thanks. Let me start. The negotiations were quite difficult. I think we indicated earlier on. And this process started long, almost. I know when we came to government in 2014, we established a panel, an advisory panel, and we brought everyone there. We brought economists, experts, labor. We also brought, Outer was part, I think the chair of Outer was part of that advisory panel. So, and they formulate a process and a solution that include issues of the fuel levy and all other things, discounts. And so we presented to National, and National rejected it, those proposals. So we had to go back to the negotiating table. And then we appointed a political team led by MEC Mamabulo. I know the then MEC, Dr. Sputla Ramukhopa, was part of it, to then find another way of persuading a national to agree. And you will recall, after we have made that announcement, there was this public statement that we made that an announcement on e-toll is imminent. I hope you all remember that. So we held on until to know whether that announcement was imminent. It's only when we made a follow-up at the cabinet Lekgotla this year that there was a room to negotiate and resolve the matter. And we took advantage of that space to vigorously negotiate. And so there was an exchange of documents. Initially, the percentage split was not what we finally arrived. It was a little bit higher. We went back, negotiated, we convened a mandating cabinet meeting as well. So there were negotiations and discussions, but at that time, our focus was on finding a solution so that these e-tolls may not be a further burden to the people of Gauteng. And now that we've reached that decision, logic dictates that we must go and establish a team to formulate a memorandum of agreement to deal with all the issues you are raising, staffing matters, people that have already paid, people that have defaulted, and all those particular things. So those things need to be in the memorandum of understanding. And that's why we're saying, allow us to go back to the Minister of Finance and Treasury and attend to those matters. So that's the first part, that why there are still these outstanding matters. Remember, some of these institutions that either have borrowed us money or are participating in this thing, they are listed in various stock exchanges and other things. So there must be transparency in dealing with these matters, and they must also deal with this matter. So we want to respect that. And as someone indicated, these are national roads. So if we have to maintain national roads, there must be a proper process. that we have. So we must go back to the negotiating table and say, why do you expect us to maintain national roads? Are you handing them over? Because you can't maintain something that is not yours. So that's the reason why we feel that these technical teams will assist us to iron out those matters. Actually, it's only one portion, is it M2 East, that is it's even a local road, it's not even, but your R21, R24, N1, N3, these are national roads. So we just need clarity so that we can resolve that matter. So that's why we feel that this meeting is urgent and we need to attend to it. Well, you know, sometimes when things are left hanging and people continue with their lives, they think things are fine. I'm one person that I really don't want uncertainty to play on, and because it's there and no one sees it, then it's fine. The reality that we're dealing with a time bomb here. We have a debt of 47 billion. We've paid 26 billion in terms of interest, and people are not paying. So what do? Do you fold our arms and say, let this status quo remain the same, or you enter and take a decisive decision and conclude? That's what I'm saying. The decision you've taken is not ideal, that you just attract a new debt but this debt was going to be increasing day in, day out, and will not. So what do? Do you wait for the debt to increase and cover our faces that we can't swim, or you take a decision and cut the umbilical cord and make a decisive intervention? We really believe we've done that. Because the quagmire we find ourselves in is that the debt remained 47 billion. We have paid 26 billion on interest, and we are on the verge of defaulting because people are not paying. And then we've got 5 billion that is needed to maintain the roads every year. So something must give. And we really believe that we have intervened to bring certainty into the market, to bring certainty to our citizens, but most importantly, to finalize this particular debt and have a new life after it. How will we raise our revenue? The team and the models that we've just shared with you. And we really believe if we can extend the timelines of repayment and also quickly sell the assets that we are not utilizing and protect the weak and the poor budget, we feel that we will be in a position to find something that will. So the impact of the debt on our budget is going to really be severe until we have a friendly settlement that it can give us a breathing space. But we've concluded something that was going to be a time bomb that will explode at any time. And that's what we really believe. And we also have to protect those people that are borrowing us money, because we'll need money in future. And we don't want them saying, no, we can't borrow you because we don't pay. And why we're not paying? Because the residents are not paying. So we also need to protect that environment. And we are of the view what we've done will assist us. It's not ideal. I'll emphasize that point. It's not an ideal arrangement, but we have to do it so that we conclude it. Aris, you raise the issue of the ownership of the road. We really and we still believe these are national roads. But if Sandral wants some arrangement, let's go into those discussions, negotiations, and finalize it. But where we are, these are national roads. I've shared with you the figures of the interest that we are paying, which is basically because people are not paying, and that's the amount and the figure that we have. Tumale, to be quite frank, we want the countries as Gauteng. We have put a new crime-fighting model. Those that were with us this morning say we have unleashed a new crime-fighting model. We need the countries to track cars, to fight crime. We need the countries to also, if possible, we said there are 22 other toll gates around Gauteng. Instead of you have to pay over the counter for the toll gate, stop then pay. You put an e-tag there, we have bought it from us. So we want to utilize them for that model, to be the agency that can utilize that. But also where people are buying e-tolls, we want to convert them into our mini police station in Gauteng. We want to park, we're buying almost 300 new motor vehicles. We want to park them there so that they can be quick to respond. We're buying 6 helicopters to fight crime. We want those helicopters to stand there so that when they're needed, they can utilize. So those facilities, we need them. And if Sandral is willing to, they've got a very sophisticated command center. And we believe that if they can also make that command center available to us, it will strengthen our arm against force. So on that score, the infrastructure, we really believe we can utilize it. The only limitation is the staffing matters, as we have raised, because those people were employed by Sandral. And if Sandral feel in our negotiations, we might need these staff members. We'll check if our budget can accommodate or not. So we have not arrived there, including what the unions have said. Where we stand, we agree with the unions. I don't think that there's any problem with their contracts. But when we enter into those negotiations, we'll know what to do. In terms of the technical team, we appointed a transactional advisor to advise us. We've got an agency called the Gauteng Infrastructure Agency, GIFA. They are in the financing market, so they are part of our advisors. We brought the HOD for Treasury and the HOD for Transport as part of the technical team that is chaired by us. So we brought experts that can advise the department. And we actually, was this expert views that we presented to National Treasury. It was not at our own. Even the new finance model that will raise funds will be guided by them. They're the one that have already put some suggestions that we have shared with you. And that's how we want to deal with this. I think that is fine.
So there's another one here from you. We are streaming live, so yeah.
Well, the issue of the provincial levy, levies are national and are very sensitive. So we are reluctant unless advised otherwise. It was one proposal that we have placed. We really believe that we can still consider it, but it's a national thing, and we don't want to tamper with that important. It's a major revenue stream for government. So you don't want to poison it or tamper with it in a manner that will encourage people. This is just 201 kilometer size, and 201 must temper all the national roads because we've put a levy that people say we don't want to pay this levy. It will create problems. So we understand, but it's part of maybe the discussions that we can hold further. But within our internal revenue mechanism, we really believe if the timelines to pay back this debt can be expanded the way we want to expand it, we really believe we can carry the burden.
Okay, thank you very much, Premier. Ntsapa, you've got a follow-up. All right,
Yeah.
it's yourself and you, and then come in and
Premier, when last did you speak to Treasury on this matter? And then can we say that with certainty that the people of Gauteng will not pay even a portion of that debt eventually? And then lastly, you said that you've set aside R1 billion, to start with your payment. Where did you reprioritize this money? Where does it come from? Thank you.
Okay, come in.
It's more again from Newsroom Africa. Premier, on the issue of accountability, decisions were taken to push ahead with installing the gantries with the view of making Gauteng a world-class province, etc. This was against national sentiment that was speaking out against this. People didn't want it in the beginning. It was steamrolled into or over them. So in terms of accountability as a province, what recommendations are you going to make? And also politically, if you could put on your other hat, within the party, I mean, you would have been there when these decisions were discussed at ANC level. Are discussions being held to deal with that matter, given the context of what's been happening following the Zondo Commission of Inquiry? Was this another capture that happened of Gauteng roads, if we can put it that way?
I just wanted to know, Premier, as far as I understand, people are still paying e-toll as we speak. So if you go underneath an e-toll, you still pay now. When will that stop?
Okay, Melody, please.
Premier, can you tell us again what the public consultations, the form that they'll take, and when exactly you're expecting to start these consultations? And you might have mentioned this, but I also would like to know, when did you say that meeting is going to happen in National Treasury?
Thanks, Melody. Mr. Welcome.
Thanks. As I've indicated, MEC Mama will join us this year. Is leading that technical team. Where I need his guidance, we will also advise. The last meeting we had with the Treasury I think, was the day before the minister made the announcement. He came to our Khotla. We invited him to our Khotla and we discussed this with him. That's last week, no? Yeah, that's a week ago. That's in terms of formal discussion, but we talk over the phone over this matter. So the formal one is that meeting, including the exchange of documents that came on that one. I hope it clarifies you. The 1 billion that we want to start as a MEC Mama Wulo is part of the team that think that around that 1 billion we can afford, including the timelines that is needed. But it depends on the 30% that we're talking about. We need to know what is that 30%. I think the meetings will assist us when we go and meet with the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Transport. And you asked Nadine, when will this meeting, we are arranging that meeting to be as soon as possible. So they're supposed to be last week Tuesday, the Tuesday that we're coming from. Unfortunately, our diaries could not be synchronized, but we will have that meeting as soon as possible. The reason why we want this meeting urgently and create certainty, I indicated to you, I'm a person that believes in certainty. So if you go under the countries, you still hear the T, and you'll get the invoice. We've got until the 31st of December to conclude everything. So if you conclude earlier, the better. But the deadline that National Treasury has given us to conclude the negotiations, finalize everything, pass laws, and everything is the 31st of December. So that's the date that they've given us. Tumaule, was this a state capture? I honestly want to dispute that. The country was hosting a very important tournament called the World Cup. We had to showcase our talent on an international platform for the very first time. We're not doing it for our own country. We're hosting that World Cup for the country and the world. And we needed to have a top infrastructure to demonstrate our capabilities to deal with it. Where there are no challenges or matters that needed to be reviewed based on hindsight, I agree. There are areas where we should have done them differently and better if you take hindsight into consideration. The reason that there is that event was time-bound, pressures and their deadlines and things that we needed to meet. We might have forgotten about World Cup and because we still have the problem, but reality is that we staged the most beautiful, well-appreciated World Cup, and this infrastructure assisted. But those that were stuck in traffic, either Allendale, those that know the traffic of what's that more, Main Lane, those that know the traffic everyone can acknowledge that this infrastructure assisted us to alleviate traffic. But the method that was used to recoup funds to pay for this debt, unfortunately, that method was rejected by South Africans. What do? Do we fold our arms and say it can't be done, or you take a decision and cut the umbilical cord and have certainty and move on? That's the option that we have taken. I read that long report of Zondo Commission. There's no chief flip there. And so I don't think that was part of capture, unless I don't know something, and I don't want to be certain. But in terms of politically, I mean, I must be honest, the South African Communist Party pushed us on this matter. COSATU pushed us on this matter. I think you'll be a denialist if you don't acknowledge the role OUTA played on this matter. An ordinary motorist that waged a war or rejection of these e-tolls. And as a listening government, you can't just say we don't. And we went to our provincial conference, the 13th provincial conference of the ANC, that pronounced that the e-tolls must go. And we led a march, as the ANC, and people laughed that we are marching against ourselves. Because it was a failure to understand how this thing works within the political part, because there's a province and there's national and there's government. And our last provincial conference that elected us now also took a resolution that e-tolls must go. And then we're implementing that decision that say e-tolls must go. But there's a price to pay, and that particular price is not a cheap price.
Okay. Colleagues, I think that's about it.
Just to clarify, is there certainty that people of Gauteng will not pay a portion of that debt eventually?
Well, let's consult. I don't want to commit the same mistakes that we find ourselves in. Remember, the e-toll people say we're not consulted. So if there is a method, a way that will involve citizens paying or not paying, let's consult. And on the basis of that consultation, we'll have an answer. I really don't want to preempt the outcome. We are starting the consultation processes immediately, because this matter, as I said, we have the 31st of December to finalize. So we will consult whether the citizens will pay or not. But we've got models that we really believe are workable models based on the expertise, that expert advice that we've received as well. But what we want to emphasize, the poor, in particular those that rely on social grants, education, quality education and health, will not suffer because we've accepted to scrap e-tolls. That's the part that we want to clear and clarify, because there have been many commentators that said that aspect will suffer. Actually, will increase more money in that aspect rather than reduce. That we want to make it clear and fair.
And the billion rand, where's it from?
Mama Bulo is going to work out to find out the MEC for Finance. And as I said, we've got assets and that we really believe that we can dispose of because they're underutilized anyway.
Just a quick
It's a Friday, by the way.
Just a quick follow-up on the political side. The question would be, is this decision also pressurized as a consideration of elective processes in terms of national elections coming up, based on the results that we had seen in the local government elections, where the ANC, where it was once stronghold, dipped. So is this also informing this decision to listen to the people at last?
Well, this was a financial decision more than political decision. That's what I can assure you.
And lastly,
Please.
in terms of the asset value on some of the assets that you're saying you'll be able to dispose of, are you able to give us, a ballpark figure of what, that amount is?
Not on top of my head. I think the team, when they've concluded that aspect, they will give up. But we've got lots of assets and lots of land parcels, I must be honest, that we really believe. And it's prime places. We really believe that will assist us to tackle this matter.
Colleagues, thank you very much for really coming through an honorable invite. Premier, thank you very much. MEC, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend.